Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Wicker Biscuit. Woohoo! Yeah, all in all, I'm super stoked. So let's do some introductions. Let's start on this side. Who do we got today on the biscuit?
Well, it's Carl again.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Who else we got?
Ryan.
Oh, we got Ryan on the pod. How you doing,
Not
Ryan?
confused with on the potty.
And then next in order, we've got Leah. So Leah, say hi.
Hey, it's Leah.
Leah's on Zoom, so she probably didn't know where she sits in the group. That's why I had to explain that part. All right, and then next,
it's Courtney.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going.
Welcome back.
Yeah, Courtney missed the last one, but she's
I
here
did.
now.
Yes.
All right, next up,
Tiffany.
Hey, Tiffany.
Here.
How are you doing?
Good.
Good.
Worn out.
Worn out? What's up?
Middle schoolers.
Enough said.
Yep.
All right, and last up, we got Jay. Say hi, Jay.
Here I am. Jay is here.
All right. So today, our topic is we're going to talk about church. So I said
Like
that
the
in a really-
cat from Pet Cemetery?
Yeah. No. So it's going to be stories of church. Any sort of stories from when you were younger, any sort of stories for if you happen to go to like any religious classes, anything from back in the day till now. So I'm going to get this party started, and I'm going to tell you a goofy one. So when I was little, like really little, like maybe 4 or 5, when I had to sit in church, I would always just daydream and make up stuff in my head because,
As you do.
listening to it is boring. So the church that I went to when I was little, was like an old style, it was Sacred Heart in Eau Claire. So it was like an old style cathedral type thing, and it had lots of big pillars. And
I was baptized there.
Me too.
I was baptized in my grandma's kitchen, which is now my kitchen.
That's a really cool story. We have to talk about that later because I just found that out. Anyway, so little kid 4-year-old Gary made up this whole story about how one of the big towers was a rocket ship, and the doorway to go into the confessional was the entrance to the rocket ship, and the priest would go in there when nobody was around, and he would blast off to space and hang out with Jesus.
Oh, he might be doing some blasting.
So yeah, he would go see Jesus, and that was
Not really church, but that reminds me, I used to imagine, what if our when I was in grade school, what if the building could blast off and like we would like look out the window and it'd be space outside? That's what that made me think of.
But I love little kid thought. Like, looking back on little me, just like, yeah, he's going to go into space and hang out with Jesus. That's what he's going to do. But it was great.
Because
So much more exciting.
Because everyone talks about heaven being like up, so you'd think
Right,
space
exactly.
must be where heaven is. Yeah.
And there was like angels all over like the decoration. But yeah. So that was my goofy ass thing from when I was little. So let's pass this conversation torch, and Carl, let's have a story from you.
One of the things I was thinking about was that I used to take the communion wafer and like push my tongue and push it all the way to the top of my mouth and then just let it be there. I don't know why.
Did it just
No,
stick?
I totally did that too.
But the only time it ever kind of failed me was my grandfather's funeral. Mind you, I hated this person. He was very mean. But I seriously, by the end of the service, I realized it wouldn't get unstuck. So I had to wait until the end of Mass when I got in my mom's truck. And like the only thing I had to like spit it into at that point, because it was just like that grimy, pasty, whatever, was like a McDonald's cup. And I have like this vivid memory of that McDonald's cup. And I'm like, oh,
The cool 90s McDonald's cups.
it
right?
was.
No,
yeah.
but I can totally relate.
The
I did
first
the
wave
same
of high
thing.
C, right?
Matter of fact, my sister Jackie and I always used to joke, be like, you had a little bit of the body of Christ stuck on the roof of your mouth.
We got actual bread.
We
Nice.
did too at the Presbyterian. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bread and wine.
It was like Wonder Bread
That's
and
cool.
grape juice.
Because they did make some bread at St. Olm's.
Don't you dare steal my story.
I don't
It's
know
too cute.
anything about it. All right.
Building off of Carl's story, the whole time I was a child, I'd be at church with my very Catholic grandma and grandpa on my dad's side. And I'd always ask, like, I want to try the communion. And my grandpa would be like, oh, you can't till you're older. And okay, whatever. She would give me like a little certs, like the breath mint,
Aw.
so I could put that in my mouth when everyone else
That
got
is so
communion.
sweet.
So I'm finally getting to be second grade. It's like, oh, you're going to learn all the stuff that you have to learn for first communion at our, like the church that I went to with my mom and my other grandma and grandpa. And I'm all excited. Like, I'm finally going to get to know what the wafer feels like. And then right away, we get there to the class and we're doing all that stuff. And they're like, oh, we're changing it. It's now this bread that we're baking. And It's like this whole wheat, blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
And I'm not going to lie to you. It was really tasty, but
It
the
was.
first time I had it, I gagged. It was like, whoa, what is this? I just
Right.
chewed it and chewed it and chewed it and chewed it and chewed it.
see, it's hilarious because in my memory, going to the one church where they had the wafer and then coming there to St. Louis because we switched, I think when I was in middle school.
Mhm.
But I loved that part about it. So then when they got rid of it and went back to the wafer, I'm like, come on.
Well, that was the thing that was nice about my other grandma and grandpa's church had the wafer, so I still got to experience it.
Sure.
But my grandma was so old school Catholic that I put it in my mouth and start chewing. She was, you can't chew it. You have to let it dissolve. Like, that's never going to happen, Grandma. I got to chew it so I can swallow it.
You got to talk to Carl about what to do.
That's right.
He knows.
Spit it in a McDonald's cup.
What did your wine and or grape juice come in?
Ooh.
Just the big metal goblet that everyone would drink out of.
Yeah.
And then they'd wipe it.
Okay, so we had
It's called a chalice.
It is.
We had tiny
I
little
have a
glass.
story about that.
We had tiny little
Carry
glass.
on.
Yeah.
Like
There's a
mini
lot
shot
of Lutheran
glasses.
churches that had the little shot glasses.
Yeah, I think Hannah's church did. No.
She was Methodist, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
And I do think
I
that
remember
the first
going-
time I saw myself.
No, it was
party.
Roberta's, I think, that had the little cups.
I don't remember.
Jesus Jello shot.
Roberta's church.
Jesus Jello shot.
Well, and a lot of times they'd carry them like you would like carry like shots around a bar.
It is
Yeah,
like
it's like a
because it's
tray.
slotted.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, that's way
Gelatin
more
Jesus.
sanitary.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Oh,
cleanliness
yeah.
is next
But
to
let me tell you,
godliness.
Jesus
the
jigglers for the
stress.
kids.
It was so stressful having this big tray of little cups of grape juice come like shuffling down your pew of
They
people.
pass it around
and
with the
if you
collection.
spilled the
bowl.
Jesus, you were
Don't
like,
spill the Jesus juice.
Gary and I
Don't
used to have a
spill
board
the
game.
Jesus.
Okay, so
Gary and I used to have a board game.
there was an old game called Don't Wake Daddy, and the commercial was like, Don't Wake Daddy, and I don't really remember the
because
I gotta look it up. Okay,
I
hold on.
had a can of soda on Gary's bed, and then I sat down and it like jiggled, and Gary went to like, "Don't spill the soda, Jesus," and he goes, "Don't spill the Jesus." So then that became a thing. Like, we should have a game called "Don't Spill the Jesus."
I played it every Sunday.
Oh my! Every
So
time,
to that song, that Don't Wake Daddy, I did Don't Spill the Jesus.
literally every time you bring something up, Gary, it like brings
Core
forward
memory.
some sort of core memory.
Finds
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, the premise of that game was like you rolled the dice or spun the wheel or whatever. When you land on some sort of noisy thing, you'd have to push the alarm clock so many times, and if the dad thing sat up,
Is there a bed with feet?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The dad was in the bed, and you pushed the alarm clock, and if he sat up, it was like, oh, you got caught.
No, you spilled the Jesus.
You woke the
You're
Don't
out.
spill Jesus.
Okay, so I'm gonna add a little bit because I had when I had first communion, for some reason my church didn't do wine at that time, or they didn't do it. So like because like I've never had the wine, like I'm actually like really like no. So I'll go get the body of Christ, but the blood of Christ I guess can just suck it. I don't know.
No,
But
I've never gotten wine. I mean, I have, but I just keep walking.
But yeah, I just don't do it.
Just keep walking.
Just keep walking.
Oh, good.
Now the body
Well,
of
and
Christ
now-
is slender and sexy, but the blood of Christ.
Now if I go to church with like my mom or something, I typically will do the thing where you walk up with your arms crossed, like, don't give me your communion bread. I'm just getting blessed.
Oh, you
that's
can
nice.
reject
You
it.
can do
Yeah.
that.
you can't.
Because if you're like a lapsed Catholic, they don't want you to get communion.
Oh.
That is
Yeah.
such
If you get
garbage.
divorced,
Or if-
you're not supposed to either,
Mhm.
right?
I
Right.
don't
There's
know.
lots of reasons you're not supposed to accept communion.
See,
you
now
can
I
still
grew up
come in for the
Methodist,
blessings.
so I don't remember there being any specific rules about like just as if you were ready.
Well,
to
when
have
I
Jesus
was
in your heart.
when I visited my friend's Armenian church, her father is the emeritus priest, and she asked about it because she wanted to make sure like what my protocol would be when I was visiting the church. And he said, "Well, Carl's been baptized," and I thought, "Well, so that's funny how like different
I think that might be the rule.
rules, you know."
Yeah, I don't know.
Well.
I mean, I always thought the Methodists were pretty chill.
Yeah.
Catholics are pretty
Oh, they
uptight.
are. Oh, absolutely. Catholics are more on the uptight side. Methodists, my experience with Methodists, they were super chill. I'm ready for another
All right, Leah,
story.
tell me your church story.
Yeah, let's swing on back to Sacred Heart, where
All right.
I went to kindergarten.
Okay.
Did you take the rocket to see Jesus?
I was not aware of the rocket.
Oh,
I should have told more people.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I can't remember the name of the priest at the time.
Uh,
He was a cool old guy though.
He was.
Was it Frank?
And I have like a really vague memory of this, but when I was younger than like probably 3 or 4, I was learning the appropriate names for genitalia, and so I went up to the priest and I was like, "You have a penis?" And he was like, "Yes, I do." My parents were like,
That is awesome.
and he was like, "Yes." And I was like, "I got it right! Woo!"
Are you auditioning
I
for
know
Altar
what
Boy?
penis is. I know. Stuff.
No, he was a good guy. He was not a creepy priest at all.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
agreed.
good.
My dad went to him for counsel, like in a serious way, I think sometimes.
Oh,
But yeah, my actual story is about midnight mass,
Freaky.
Which is on
Scares the
Christmas
bejesus
Eve.
out of me.
Mm-hmm.
and you stay up until midnight and you go to mass, and they make children perform in this obstacle.
I performed many
spectacle
times in that.
nonsense.
Obstacles.
And so
Yeah, I need more information about
I was
this
Jesus
obstacle.
one year.
I'm sorry, like an obstacle course?
Yeah, like rewind a little.
yeah.
Mark
So
Summers shows up and he's
wait
like, on
for
your
it.
mark.
I
Get
will
set.
explain the obstacles,
Okay.
which there are.
Sorry.
There's several moments of danger in this story.
What?
So first of all, we're supposed to be like, we're dressed up like little angels, right? So I have my little like bowl cut, and there's all these little girls, and it's like probably 1989. So there's a lot of fucking hairspray on these small children. And we're holding candles.
Oh no.
And
I've heard this
this
story.
lovely small girl with this like white blonde hair, with clearly too much goddamn hairspray, is holding this candle, and her whole head just goes
Just the fumes, just like
right, like her whole head is on fucking fire. And she starts screaming, and then a bunch of adults just start slapping her in the head.
And not like to put the fire up. They all just line up and smack her, and then the next person
Which
comes up.
thankfully works, so that's good.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord. So little girl's not on fire anymore. I don't remember if she had to like still do the rest of the night, but I was like at the very beginning, so like I don't know if we were just like one angel down then or whatever. Anyways, so then I don't know if you've heard of the Knights of Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Technically, I was actually a third-degree knight.
It's true.
True story.
They dress up like actual knights, and they have like big feathered hats, and they have like
Mhm.
cloaks, and they have
And swords.
fucking swords.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, along the aisle that goes up to the altar, they have like, they have their swords crossed in a big arch. And us small children, angels, are supposed to like carry, like, I think we were carrying like straw up to like baby Jesus's manger,
Yep.
so he would be comfortable when he was born or whatever. And we're supposed to like walk under all these fucking swords. And I was like, I don't know about this. Fucking swords. This is bullshit. So they had us like all spaced out, like when you walk down an aisle or whatever, like, count as you walk and walk slowly, but I like fucking ran.
I'm not getting caught under a sword.
Messed up their spacing or whatever. But I got up there, I brought my hay, maybe Jesus was comfortable, whatever. And then the last thing about Midnight Mass is that my godfather, whose name is maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe
No, I'll
cut that
bleep
out.
it.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Okay, sorry. My godfather, who is actually from Germany and moved here from Germany when he was like 6 or something, speaks German, and Sacred Heart is a German Catholic church, and so every midnight mass, every Christmas Eve, he sings Silent Night in German from the choir, which is like up between the rocket ships, if you will.
Yep.
yeah.
This is crazy.
Which is like the only fond memory that I have of Catholicism. So thanks, Godfather.
This is just nuts because I went to Sacred Heart as a kid, so like we've got so many stories that overlap that I had no idea, because I know who you're talking about. I remember him singing the stupid song. One year in the pageant, I was Joseph, and I had to walk under the swords.
Oh yeah, the swords. Did you run or did you walk?
No, I walked, but But I remember being like the girl who was Mary. I was like, oh geez. Because I'm like, we're married. This is creepy because she's a girl and she's got cooties, and it was an innocent thing, but yeah, I was really embarrassed.
2 of my favorite date nights actually involved midnight mass. That's kind of weird, right?
Another fun story.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking about that. I think I don't remember the show because the date was kind of cool. But it was the same girl. Yeah, that's right, girl. Yeah.
So
And
fun
so,
story.
Yeah.
One sec. I gotta throw this out
Yeah.
there. So in that same year, the pageant was the little drummer boy.
I remember that story.
Yeah,
Because he was really excited to do it.
he was. All right, I'm sorry.
But no, I think it just, for me, it was like, it was a reason to dress up, stay up late.
Didn't we discuss once bar hopping and seeing how many midnight masses we could get to?
Yes, I think we did.
I mean,
For the wine.
they do some
Yeah.
do some staggering of like some churches do because of multi faiths and stuff.
Am I the only
I don't
one
know
who,
why
who
we
only
thought
went to
about
midnight
that, but-
masses that were just regular church, but at midnight?
Mine was
Because
yeah.
like nothing, there was nothing
Mhm.
different about the ones I
Courtney's
went to.
mom didn't our moms like sometime when we were up in Rice Lake?
It's possible they may have went together.
Yeah,
So my mom was in the infamous bell choir.
yeah.
Ooh.
I remember that. That was
She'd
awesome.
Have to, yeah. hmm
But anyway,
But you had church at midnight too?
Well, let me tell you, I had a traumatic childhood. My mother was Catholic. My dad was Presbyterian. If I was naughty, I had to go to both churches on
Oh,
the
boy.
weekend. But, kind of leading into this, I think I spent most of my time going to the Catholic church with my mom. And my mom was so diehard Catholic.
oh, she was.
She was intense Catholic. And she would always have to sit in the front row. And like the Rice Lake Catholic Church, there was 4 different aisles of pews.
Oh yeah.
And we'd always have to sit in the front one on the right-hand side. Now, this was kind of like a moment of awakening in my young childlike body. And I'll tell you why. When it was, when you haven't had your first communion yet, you have to sit in your little place with kneeling, praying, whatever. But this pervert here would look at all of the crotches go by. All the men and women as they've received the blood and the body of Christ, amen. They would come past and I'd be like, man, woman. And then I would take it up another notch. And I noticed that all of the men older, their package went to like one side or the other. And then I noticed after year or times and times of studying crotches that there was this thing that I noticed that ladies had. And I come now to find that those are indeed camel toes. But for years, I just looked at crotches and asses the whole entire time that I was supposed to be praying. And
That's a religious
Here I am.
experience, right?
I know, right?
Courtney's got a PhD in bird watching, package peeping.
Yep. So that's my story.
Well, let's get some more. Tiffany, do you have any for us?
I have a lot. My father grew up very Catholic. Like my great aunt is a nun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
I
actually,
share that too.
my grandfather is one of national record-setting children, amount of living children, and then he had 12 siblings. None, obviously, very Catholic. This is what I'm trying. Farming Catholic from Iowa. So my dad did
Make
Catholic.
all the farm hands,
Yes.
just the kids.
So my dad grew up Catholic. I did not know this. I had no knowledge. And then one of my great aunts passed away. So we went down to Iowa to this funeral, Catholic funeral. Never been to one.
Oh,
I'm
it's an
there to-
experience for your first time.
Oh my God. Not only is it an experience because they're doing all the standing up and the sitting down and the answering and talking back to each other, which there's some of that in regular church, right? But not all of the stuff. And then my dad is doing all of this. Like he knows the secret
You never
language.
forget.
No,
You never
it's
forget.
kind of ingrained in you.
It was terrifying. I was 12 years old, but my dad's doing all this stuff. I have no idea how do you even know this?
Right.
It's really weird though, because now, not going to church regularly since I was probably 14, but you still know the mass for the most part. You know what comes when and what to say and what to call back.
And
Then they changed a bunch of it, so I go back now and I'll be like, "What? That's not what I used to say." And I'm like,
Right.
"Mom, when did they change that?" They're like, "Oh, 10 years ago." I'm like, "Oh, well, I was not around."
I
for
thought it was
that.
time for the homilies.
Well, no, that stuff's all the same, but it's just the specific wording.
I
is
don't
Yeah,
different.
there
I
was
don't even
one,
know what a homily
There was
is.
one.
That's when they talk about the reading they just did.
The
I
one
just know
that
that's a
pissed
thing.
me off
It's
was
similar to a hummus.
you used to say
Hummus is more tasty.
you say something about peace be with you, and then it's also
Also
with
with
you,
you.
and they say also with your spirit now. or-
And with your spirit.
oh yeah, and it's no,
It's
screw
that's
you.
not what
it's
it
also
is.
with you. Yeah, that pissed me off.
Your spirit
Jay.
part of you.
I
To
guess.
circle back to that. I don't know.
We
That's
can-
confusing. I don't really have a whole lot. We didn't attend church. We weren't.
That's okay.
Yeah, we didn't regularly attend church. My grandfather who lived with us was religious, and to some extent he would blast, churchy organ hymn records upstairs.
That's weird.
Just fucking
That's scary.
rocking the house with it.
Delightful.
On the other side, my grandmother was very Catholic growing up. I don't think my grandfather was. So yeah, I never regularly attended any kind of service. My mom went through, I guess it was more than a phase, but there was a portion where it was very much of a phase of like embracing our Native American heritage, and we kind of had like some
Was
kind
it
of
specific Native American heritage, or was it?
Yep. There's a specific
Okay.
tribe
Nice.
that on that side of the family.
Nice.
So like kind of like some, I don't want to call it like paganism, but very
Humanist, earth-based kind of.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then that kind of blended into her sister. Got into the Baha'i faith.
Oh yes,
So
I'm familiar with that.
Then my mom kind of took an interest to that, and there was kind of a blending. So it was really a very eclectic experience growing up. The one memory I do have is it was late middle school or early high school, and it was like an after school church thing, and it was with Amber
Amber Schmamber?
Amber Schmamber.
Okay.
And we I don't remember how she talked me into it, but we took a bus somewhere, and it was that period of time where it was like radical love Jesus thing. Like, it's super cool to love Jesus, kids. Like come and
Jesus
listen to
Christ
this
superstar.
Yeah.
Did I miss
like
that?
these jams,
You
like
did.
It was so creepy.
had
like
that.
some Jesus rock. Like,
Yeah.
Oh
like,
yeah, I did that.
the Lord
Concerts
loves you, and
everything.
that's metal, kids. Like,
I must have been like really diving into my queerness at that point, because
Yeah.
I was not paying attention. It was all rainbows and unicorns. There was no.
It's probably really good for
yeah.
you.
I could probably sing you one of the songs right now.
it was like a creepy, like a gathering of like creepy early 20s dudes that were kind of there as like youth pastors, but like showed a keen interest in the like conventionally attractive high school girls that were there.
Oh, sure.
Like
You
it
mean
was
like the letters that
sketch.
my camp counselor from church camp used to send me?
Mm.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Probably right
That's
in those
real.
same veins.
Mm.
Yeah.
I wish everybody listening could see that smile. That smirk was priceless.
I just, you get older and you realize things that you didn't realize
Oh,
when
sure.
you were younger.
No, I get it. Totally.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Jay.
Oh no. And other than that, it was kind of, going for weddings or funerals. And the bit of services that I would attend, like when visiting family, it just didn't really, I remember going to a service with my cousins, and it gets to the portion of the service where they're, passing around the collection basket. And I just remember, like, I looked over, and the usher or attendant or whoever on the end of the aisle was like really paying like very focused attention on who was contributing, and like really eyeballing the amount of money that was going in, like uncomfortably so, like totally tuned out to the service, laser focused on the contributions.
That
It's just like,
seems
that's
not okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, somebody's got to maintain the bottom line,
It's tithing. Like, give what you can, right? I mean, I know
In
that
theory.
it's supposed to be 10% of your earnings or whatever. That's why it's called
No.
tithing. But like,
No, thank you.
I remember wanting to put in like all of my birthday money once when I was very little, like grade school age, and my dad was like, "No, you don't want to do that."
Good job.
All right. Well, how about I throw out another one? If that's all
let's
right
keep
with
this round
everyone.
going. Yeah.
So I'm going to bring it up a little bit because my last one, I was pretty young. So I'm going to bring one about high school. So in high school, we were in our religious studies thing was unique, where like we split up into groups, and I took great pride in the fact that in our group, I forgot I convinced. Well, it was a group thing, but we convinced the group to be called Shiny Happy Christ People.
Yeah.
And because for some reason he was in it, but he wasn't. So it was the Shiny Happy Christ People, and then they're like, because I really liked REM at the time, so it was.
Why
from-
wouldn't you?
Well, thank you. Yeah, but and the adults were like, don't you mean shiny, happy Christian people? And I'm like, no, shiny, happy Christ people, or it ain't happening, guys. And everybody else in the group doubled down, and the parents were not happy with it, but they went with it. And we were the shiny, happy Christ people.
So did you guys all do, since you all grew up Catholic here together and did some Catholic things that Catholic peoples do, did you all do like the whatever you call it in high school together?
Nope.
What is Wednesday class?
That's what I'm talking about.
CCD.
The CCD.
Yeah.
So when I was at Sacred Heart, we did it on Wednesdays, but then wasn't ours?
We didn't do CCD together till middle school for sure, because that was when you switched to St. Olaf's.
Why was
Right.
Gary never in ours, Ryan?
Because he wasn't at our church until middle school, right?
But then he was never in the one that you and I were in.
Weren't there?
What group were you? What was the group that you had?
Me?
Do you remember your group's name?
I don't remember. Like, what grade are we talking about? Because they
They-
kept
I'm
changing
talk-
how to do it.
So, right, I'm talking freshman years when they started it. So once we went to high school, we split into those groups.
That was
where-
pretty much when I quit going.
Fair enough. However, you were at the one party that I'm thinking of, but I'll save that
Yes, yes, it was.
for next. But that's what I want. I was super proud of getting them to, because I personally thought it was hilarious just to throw Christ into the name. Yeah, we're the shiny happy Christ people. And
I bet the old ladies hated that.
it was a good accomplishment of mine. No, that's all I
Sounds
had.
a great.
I mean,
Actually, it's a great segue because I mean, my next story is about a funeral.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what's kind of weird. Like when you go to weddings or funerals at churches, you really don't know, like, is the couple really religious? Is the deceased really religious? Like, did they go to this church? Like, do they have any relationships?
Are they only at this church because their parents wanted them to be?
Are you literally, having your service done at a church where you seriously volunteered once a year to clean the lefse plates? Like,
Lefse plates?
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh.
yeah.
Your church never
So-
did the Lefse dinner?
He's making a point of why he.
So
Getting there.
the little town where my stepdad and my mom retired to, or semi-retired to, when my stepdad passed away, he really wanted to have his service at this old Lutheran church that's in the middle of nowhere. And it's got a huge flight of stairs up to the sanctuary. Well, this funeral was during a big snowstorm. My mom actually had lost power for most of the week, like while planning this funeral. And there was a lot of people from town. There was a lot of people that came up from scouting and people we'd known over the years. But the biggest, like, pomp and circumstance kind of thing was Bob was a retired paramedic. So there was an honor guard that came up from his village department. So they're in full Class A uniforms, and Bob wanted me to sing Amazing Grace as a solo, so I had to do that. And, we had people get up and mention and talk about Bob, and Bob had been married a few times. And so his ex-wives got up and talked about him, which was interesting. So it was one of those great, like, just taking it all in because you didn't know what was going to happen next. Well, they're playing the going away song, like the honor guard's bringing his casket down to the back of the church. But then you got to remember they have to go down that huge flight of stairs. Well, people put trinkets and all kinds of stuff in the casket. Bob's duck call. All of a sudden we hear.
As it rolled down the casket to the bottom where his feet
Oh
were.
my goodness.
And they're going down the stairs, and if you weren't sitting right there, you didn't see what was going on. So you're like, did they just drop the casket? Yeah.
Bob just go for a ride?
Bob's last ride.
But in the end, he was buried at a military cemetery, and they bury them standing up. Like, they don't bury him flat.
Oh.
It saves room.
It saves
It's
room.
very disturbing.
But the honor of it is you're always standing at attention.
Until you decompose and fall down to the
Right.
bottom.
Yeah, you're
So-
just a pile of bones.
Ultimately, his duck call was going to fall to the bottom anyway.
Truth be told, no matter what way they bury you, you're a pile of
I know, but it
bones.
just seems disrespectful.
Fair enough.
I don't know
what
why.
you mean.
Well, and for the little caveat I'd say there is be an organ donor, be a tissue donor. Yeah. Make sure you do it because it helps a lot of people.
Have my body for science.
Yep.
So my next one is super quick and brief and more of an anecdote, but it's very cute. And it's a story that my family loves to retell. When my cousin was 5 or 6 and his mom was pregnant with my other cousin and they were talking about baby Jesus in church, he pulls her shirt and he goes, "Mom, don't worry. I won't tell anyone you have a baby and you're Virginia."
Aw.
I love that. It's cute.
That same cousin also once waved at my grandma when my grandma did the communion distribution a lot.
Mhm.
So and she walked by to go do it. He like waved at her, but he was a little kid and he held up just his middle finger. And he's like, "Hi, Grandma!" So everybody laughed. Like, who's this little kid flipping off his grandma?
Leah, do you got any more?
Well, I went to Catholic school, so I have
You have enough for a whole episode?
unending amounts. But yeah,
All right. Well, feel free to pick one if you like.
I do in fact have one, if you like. Yeah, so I'm gonna go to grade school now, because my last one was kindergarten. So now I'm in, let's say maybe 3rd or 4th grade. I think 4th grade. So this is the first priest that allowed girls to also be altar children, like altar boys. They could only be boys. And at Sacred Heart, that priest who we said was cool but old school, and he wouldn't allow girls to be altar children.
Right.
So this was Father Karate, who
Karate?
does not like the gays.
Yeah, it's not spelled the same way.
Karate, not karate.
Oh,
Right, it's spelled Italian, not like
I thought they were
martial
like
arts.
high kicks during service.
There was.
No.
My aunt once
it
called
was-
him Father Carotid, like the artery.
So the high kicks were like Radio City girls, not
Yeah.
karate.
That really amps up
Because
the
he was from
service.
New York, wasn't he?
I don't know.
I think he was from
he
New York.
he was placed in New York for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was from there,
Fair
but
enough.
he was placed there.
But yeah, Radio City high kicks, all mass.
Anyhow, so Father Karate was allowing girls to be altar children, and for some reason I was like, that's a thing I want to do. So you wear this white little robe, and you tie a little rope around your waist, and the color of the rope coincides with like what time of year it is and like what color the priest's robes are. So like if it's Easter, it's like a certain color because it
Yeah.
coincides with like whatever the fuck's going on.
Right.
There's a reason for everything,
The
and
calendar,
the colors, etc.
It should be karate belts.
Essentially, they are right.
It's like, you're a purple belt. The Lord be with you.
Happy Easter.
And also with you. Okay, so it was towards the end of Mass. It was after communion, and I had to go up onto the altar and take the communion stuff away from the priest and like bring it down and like set it to the side. And so like I went up on the altar, and you're like in front of the entire congregation, and I don't know how many people St. Olaf holds, but I don't know, I think safely over 100, 200 on a regular Sunday. I have no idea.
For the original church. Yeah, because that building's not even the main church anymore, so.
Right, back in the day when it was like in that
I'd say
like
200 is a
gym
good
that they
guess.
converted.
Like
Right.
originally built to be a gym, then turned into the church, and now a gym again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Anyway.
Silly Catholics. So I go up and I'm grabbing the stuff, and I fucking drop it. And this is like holy fucking materials, right? Like it's the chalice. This is like the
So you
vessel
spilled the
that like
Jesus.
right. It's the
Don't spill
vessel
the
that
Jesus,
holds
don't spill the
She
the
wasn't
blood of
singing the
Christ.
song.
This
Yeah.
is like the bowl, the vessel that holds the body of Christ, and I have thrown that shit on the ground. And I am like super ready for like the earth to like fucking open and for me to like drop straight into hell. And Father Karate like leans forward and he's like, "It's okay," and he like helps me pick up the shit, and I like walk off, and I'm like fucking mortified because
No.
it's in front of like so many people,
And
right?
all that
Like,
stuff has to be used, doesn't it? Like you pick it up and you still have to use it, don't you?
well, it was
the body
after
of
we already did
Christ? Oh,
communion,
okay.
so
Yeah.
Well, that's a good
There
thing.
is rules on how you dispose
Yeah.
of it. You can't just throw it in the garbage.
My mom, she also passed out communion, and when she was usually the one with the wine, and whatever was left, she had to drink it all.
right, yeah.
And just imagine all that
That's the-
backwash.
No, that's the part. Like
Right.
the priest, from what I remember, they bring it back, and the priest like would pour everything in, and then
Uh-huh,
he'd eat the little
it's-
scraps, and then drink.
Well,
whatever
my
was left,
mom
and
had
it's
to
like,
chug the
"Whoa."
wine, and she'd get
Oh,
like all
man.
loosey goosey in the knees trying to come down the steps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's the people that pass out the wine. It's like those people and the priest. They kind of like split whatever's left and they down it essentially.
pretty
There's a
sweet
couple
gig.
people
No,
that
thank you.
shouldn't be driving home after mass.
It'd just be easier to sit by the door and let all the people make out with you as they leave.
That's why so many Catholics hit the bar right after
Right.
Mass.
They gotta rinse
They got,
out the
they got a
backwash
buzz going right now, you know.
Yeah.
It's-
Keep the good times going.
Yeah.
That sounded like quite
Yeah.
the Christastrophe.
It sure was.
Oh, that tickles me.
That briefly reminds me of my son. He too went to a Catholic school for a while.
He did, huh?
Yeah, Devin, he was sporting it. But one time we were on the way home from school, he says, "Jesus Christ," and I'm like, "Devin, you can't say that." He says, "Yes, I can. It's his middle name." I'm like, "What?" So my aunt was also in the car. She says, "Well, if Jesus is his first name, Christ is his middle name, what's his last name?" And she's like, "Superstar." So my son literally thought for a while that Jesus' last name was Superstar. But continue.
Love that. But I think we should start that rumor for the world.
Yeah.
Then you have to sing his name all the time.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Right.
Superstar.
I feel fine about that.
That'd be great to just walk into a Catholic church now. Just do that.
Jesus Christ. Superstar.
Don't spill the Jesus.
Hey, Zana, Hosanna, Zana.
I've never actually seen the. Like, I know the play, I know some of the songs, but I don't like knowing them all. I know just the refrains more or less.
Oh, I know every
You do?
word.
Could we
Okay.
crash a Catholic mass and get kicked out?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
How long?
Oh, I bet we could.
I wonder if we could see how long it took us to get kicked out.
So, the wildest thing I can think of for like mass and music, I don't know if they still do it, but Sacred Heart used to do a polka mass.
Oh,
Once
polka
a-
masses
yeah.
are awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to
That's-
many of those
that's
back
cool
in my
stuff.
youth.
It's very Wisconsin.
Yeah,
They-
exactly.
I was going to say they do that for the Barron County Fair. They have
Yeah.
a polka mass on Sunday morning.
But as Leah had shared, Sacred Heart being German, so they totally every year when they did their church bazaar, that Sunday was the polka mass, and I freaking loved that church bazaar. That was so much fun.
I totally forgot about church bazaars.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a good time. Anyway, sorry, just wanted to throw that in there.
I would have said I didn't have another story, but your mentioning of REM
Oh,
took me down memory lane.
Let's do
It's,
it.
it's not church; it's more church adjacent, and it's highly inappropriate. I was drug along. My mom was going up to the reservation for, I believe it was some kind of Baha'i meeting up there. I don't think she was alone in blending the Native American stuff and the Baha'i stuff. So we were going up to the reservation. We were riding along with somebody else that lived near us that was going up there, and his son. His son was special needs, I think Down syndrome. So the son and I are sitting in the back seat. My mom's on the passenger side. The other guy's driving. I'm listening to REM, just loving it. Early 90s, looking out the window.
Can you paint the picture? Is this a Walkman?
I was going to say Discman, Walkman.
I believe it was a Discman.
Did
Oh,
you
okay.
have the foam headphones?
That I don't recall.
Okay, just
that I don't
checking.
recall. But, just looking out the window as we're driving, and I happen to glance to my left, and the kid is over there vigorously masturbating.
REM has that effect on all of us.
So, no, he couldn't hear it.
Oh.
It was just me. It was just me.
The joy of REM that it brings to other people
Christ.
does that to all of us.
vigorously masturbating. So I say, "Oh, excuse me." I don't remember the guy's name, but Mr. Driver. There's
If I would have known that story, then the time that we had to ride in the van with the teachers because you and some other kid didn't get along and couldn't ride on the bus together, I would have made some joke about that. Like, hey, look.
Who's losing their religion
So-
now?
he frantically turns around and sees it and it's yelling for him to stop, and the kid's not stopping.
Well, it's
So-
not there yet. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
He pulls over the car, he's apologizing to us, and my mom pulls me out so we can walk away, and she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean that's whatever." And he's trying to reason with his kid and tell him to
Did you
stop.
say how old you are?
I think early middle school.
Okay.
Maybe late elementary, probably early middle. And he was about my age, maybe a little bit older.
Is there any chance you remember the song, the specific song at that time?
I feel like it was Losing My Religion, but that might have just been what sticks out
that's
because
very
like
perfect,
it's one of their
yes.
Fair enough.
Perfect
bigger
for this
songs.
podcast.
yeah. And yeah, we get back in the car, we get back on the road, and we ended up having to pull over at least 2 or 3 times because
He was unable to stop.
unable to stop.
Well, if you just let the kid finish.
I mean, ultimately, with the second time you pull over, that's when you're just like, all right, get it done.
Yeah.
Let him
Right?
finish, and then his refractory period will give you a
Yeah.
good half
Head out,
hour.
head out
Right.
into the woods and finish it off, come back. I don't know.
It'd buy you a few miles at least.
One would hope.
That's amazing.
Vigorously.
Well, enthusiastically. Like,
Oh,
Anything we're doing is worth doing right.
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, back to me then. I'm actually good. Who else has got one that they want to throw?
I've
Go
got
first.
I've got 2 little anecdotal quick ones.
Let's hear them. I like it.
2 as well.
So, in the 1940s, my grandma was a wonderful Catholic girl, and my grandpa was a sailor who was Methodist, and they were like dating,
Dun, dun,
and they went to church together. Now, my grandpa, of course, not being Catholic, didn't know about the holy water bowls by the door, so when they were leaving, he threw his change in there because he thought that was like the collection plate.
Excellent.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
And my other story is not really, it's church adjacent as well. When we were doing chalking for pride events,
Mhm.
we would get very silly in college. And so we would chalk around on the sidewalks to like promote our drag show or whatever. And our friend Jacob chalked Larry Christ loves the gays. And like that was our joke, was Larry Christ was Jesus' brother. So it was this, we chalk out Larry Christ every time after that. Years later, Carl and I are watching Saturday Night Live and Steve Buscemi is hosting. And it's this weird thing where he's decorating a Christmas tree with Sheila, played by Kristen Wiig, and they're both just weird. And there's like, he holds up a little ornament that's a computer, and he's like, you know what this is? It's a computer. And he pushes little buttons, and he goes, beep, boop, boop. And they hang it on the tree. And he's like, do you know what this is? It's a pine cone. And he pokes the pine cone and goes, beep, boop, boop. And then he holds up a little baby Jesus. He goes, do you know what this baby's name is? If you said Larry, you're close. It's Jesus. And like, that joke is so much funnier to us than anyone else in the nation because we know that's Jesus' brother. You were close. It's Jesus.
When my son, as I mentioned, what happened was my mom was so Catholic, she wanted my son to go to Catholic school. So she paid the bill, the whole deal, and it was
Really?
important to her. So,
That's saying something with your mom.
right. She's cheap as hell. But anyways, so low key, the whole Catholic church in Rice Lake thought my son was possessed. I'm not joking. The first time he walked into, because like Wednesday, they would all have to wear khaki pants and their little St. Joe's little polo shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And they would go over to the church and they'd have an hour service in the middle of the day. And as soon as my child walks into the church pew, the same one that I was crotch viewing from,
Crash watching.
he immediately
Memories.
right. He immediately projectile vomits on all the Bibles. And like nobody knows how to act because he just threw up on Bibles. Like they thought like where do you even begin? Like what, so my mom was actually in the service at that time, not like the military, but like in the Catholic service. And she, helped clean everything up. But then shortly after I got a call a couple of weeks later from one of the grandparents of one of the other students in his class, and like, we've really been watching your son during Catholic services, and he gets very angered and very angry, and he acts out, and I'm like, there's not an angry side to my son
No, there
whatsoever.
isn't.
So it just so happened to be, which is terrible, my mom passed away, and they had a memorial service during the school time for my mom. So Devin and his class go in, and I'm watching my son as this woman's like, no, you just watch him. I look at my son, and he's like grimacing, and he's like shaking his arms and his fists, and I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And then it dawned on me, my little ADHD boy is trying to be quiet, but he's like stimming, and he's pretending he's driving an 18-wheeler. So he's actually shifting, and like his legs are like, clutching and everything. They thought he was possessed.
Of course they did. Of course they did.
Uh-huh. No
Taking
joke.
this big rig
that's
straight to
awesome.
hell.
Right?
Back it up, bitch.
Right? That was it.
Oh, that's
Amazing.
awesome.
That's wonderful.
Did you get another one?
Well, it was a brief one when again, during the same time frame of me watching everybody's crotches, my mom would pick up my great-great-grandmother. Actually, I think it was a great-great-great-grandmother. She died. She was like 103.
Oh, wow.
And we would pick her up for church. And may I also add, the governor gave her a lifetime pass for the the city bus, until she started riding it topless. And then they cut her off. But anyways, we'd pick up Grandma Tilly, and we would go to church. And again, we're in the front row.
I mean, I just want to pick up Grandma Tilly in general.
Was Grandpa driving when she was topless?
Do you think the bus?
Our grandpa drove the city bus for Rice
Oh,
Lake.
nice.
I think he's the one that reported it.
I was thinking maybe the bus patrons called her Grandma Titty.
True.
Was she able to go to church topless? Just not
No,
the bus?
she did not. But we would pick her up, and we would take her to church. And we're sitting in the front row.
Yeah, she can't ride the bus.
And she was deaf as deaf could be, so I don't know why she went to church. She couldn't hear a thing.
No.
But one of the things that she could not hear was her excessive gas. And she would just let them fly so loudly during the most quiet, intimate parts of church.
That would be why I would go.
It
That would
would
get me to
just
church.
kill me. I would be
I'm
so
just
If I
here
was
for
old or
farts.
deaf, I would go just to punish everyone else.
Oh
Oh,
my
she
God,
could
I was
still
so
hear her, she knew.
embarrassed.
Wait, you're saying if you had the gas, you would go to punish everyone else?
Yes.
Oh, see, I was thinking I would go to listen to it and laugh.
Same.
But you're right. Both equally as fun.
Well, with those vaulted
Yeah.
ceilings, it would just like...
Just the
Reverberate.
acoustics.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we sang in
Exactly.
these churches, because it was the best
Yeah.
acoustics. Not that we were
Grandma
diehard
Tilly.
Catholics.
There was a whole lot of dysfunction in the first row.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
Well, she was possessed too then.
That's what I was gonna say. Did they think Grandma Tilly's possessed? It must run in that family.
Right? She thought it was quiet. It was not. It was not at all. So those were my stories.
It's awesome. I'm gonna
Outstanding.
end this with just one good one. So for those who don't know, my dad,
Little Dipper.
Courtney, yeah, Little Dipper is a good one. Yeah,
Mhm.
but Courtney calls him Uncle Jeff. Even to this day, she calls him Uncle Jeff. But then
Yeah.
again, I call your dad Uncle Don.
So it makes sense.
It does
As
make
one
sense.
does, yes.
It does. Anyway, so we're there. We're in the Catholic Mass. I don't know if I was rushed that morning, so I didn't brush my teeth or something. I don't know why, but either way, I had some stanky breath. And we're doing the towards the end, the peace be with you. Everybody show a sign of peace. You shake everyone's hand. You say peace be with you. So I'm like, and for some reason that part of Mass I loved, and I wanted to shake everyone's hand and say peace be with you. It was even though I'm not really all that social, it was just oh yeah, peace be with you, peace be with you. I turn to my dad, I go, peace be with you. And he goes, oh, piece of gum be with you.
That's wonderful.
And that story I always conflated with another story that was Gary's sisters had BO one day. Their dad made her go sit in the car. I was wasn't there something he made you get out of church because you had bad breath? And he's like, no. That was Jackie and her armpits.
Yeah, Jackie had to go sit in the car, but he gave me a piece of gum afterwards.
Maybe that's what you should have offered the priest at your wedding when he burped.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that Carl and I laughed about that. We talked about should that be one of our church stories during your wedding?
Did he burp during the
He
thing?
just
He
kind
had
of
so much. I loved
Where
him.
were
He was
you?
so mixed up
Oh,
during
no,
the whole thing.
You were there.
I was there.
Yeah, okay, go.
Well,
He was
she
so-
was in the corner melting because it was the hottest day on
Yes.
earth.
No, but I remember during the rehearsal he said something and kind of made a joke, and I grabbed Carl's arm and I go, "Oh God, a funny priest."
He was an awesome guy. He also has
was.
since passed, but
Aw.
he was a good guy.
He was. I thought he was a good one.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I loved it.
But I did just love. I don't remember what part of the thing he just turns his head and goes, "Bah." Oh.
Yep,
and then
I
just
love
keeps
that.
going.
Him and Aunt and Grandma Tilly could have just been dueling.
I will say this though, because I was so nervous. So when he did that kind of stuff, it
It made you feel better?
cut all the pressure.
Mhm.
I'm just oh yeah, we burp sometimes. It's okay.
Yeah.
No,
I would say that
remember-
probably was kind of a break in the ceremony.
Do you remember my hand grenade joke during the rehearsal or after the service?
Remind me.
A hand grenade joke is one where you tell it and then it's 5 seconds later people get it. So the photographer and his wife are there and the photographer's got his camera on. He's like, okay, everybody stand like this. And I go, well, I would, but I don't have a camera. And it was
The
one,
stuff we
two,
say out loud all the
three,
time, and people
four.
are like,
And then the people next to me are like,
"Stupid."
oh,
I remember that, and I remember the pre-pictures. Like we had,
pretend you're late.
Somebody, we had to pretend we were late. Oh, and Ryan got all excited. He's like, "Ooh, we're doing prop pictures." He didn't have a watch on.
Because
so.
didn't he give me his watch or
he gave me
something?
his
Like,
watch.
here, put this watch on and pretend you're.
Yeah, it was like one of those pictures where like Ryan was pointing at the watch, like, "Gary, we better get scooting. We're late." And I'm just like, "Ah." It was fun.
It was fun.
And the marquee at the hotel where the reception was said, "Congratulations, Amanda Gary." It was just one name.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll cut from this and see you right back in our next segment. And we're back. All right. I think we should dive into our Tisket of Tasket. Let's talk about our Wicker Basket. Wicker Biscuit basket.
Buttered biscuits and burnt biscuits.
I don't know. It's the basket of biscuits. It's the biscuit basket.
Buttered burnt.
Yeah.
Butter and burnt.
Yes, we're going to go through whatever brings us extreme joy. That'll be our buttered biscuit. Otherwise, dive into something that just grinds your gears, and that'll be your burnt biscuit.
Both.
You got them both, and we welcome both.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have one, feel free to pass. But if it's all right, Carl, would you like to kick us off?
You know what butters my biscuit this week?
Ooh, a buttered one.
Yeah, really
like it.
buttered. I just think friendships of all different types. Like
Yeah.
you think about those close ones you have, or like the ones that like you can just catch up after a long time, or there's ones that like I've developed during the COVID years of there's literally streaks of just Snapchat every day, and just that simple like silly little thing, or a picture or just a phrase. It's just so nice. And like, it just knowing that people are there and like sharing and interacting. I think it's cool that there's just this range, because I didn't think as an adult, like it was still going to be that great, but it really is. It takes a little effort, but it's definitely worth it.
Aww.
Yeah. Okay.
So the butter, I found out today from a TikTok, the Ore-Ida company.
Mm-hmm.
The name comes from Oregon and Idaho, and them being like next to each other, and that's where all the potato come from.
That makes
I
sense.
didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, and I thought that's so great. And I thought it'd be even funnier if I found out later it's not true, but I think it is true. So that's my biscuits.
All right. Next in line would be Leah.
Yep, burns my biscuit. Road rage.
Yeah,
We'll say I had an
I've heard it's been
unfortunate
a rough week.
incident with some road rage this week. I don't need to go into it, but it was too much for me, and I don't wish it on anyone. And people, just fucking cool your biscuits, if you will.
Yeah.
Well put.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well put. I like it.
Well, I had a perfectly buttered, warm, moist biscuit
Ooh.
that was then taken and thrown on the floor and stomped
I'd
on.
like to take a bite into your biscuit.
I'd love for that too. But and I don't know if this is true or not, but I was watching a TikTok video and it totally changed my childhood. I don't know. Have any of you heard about this whole new theory on the Smurfs?
No.
That they're
Oh, don't
anti-Semitic?
No.
Oh, I've heard that story.
So supposedly,
Oh no.
when the Smurfs originally came out, you started having like those little erasers and stuff for your pencils and whatever. And this guy tells a story about how he was in Germany and going to school there, and he was so proud of
Deutschland.
his what?
Deutschland.
Oh,
Deutschland.
yes. And
That's all.
he was in his classroom, and he had a little pencil eraser of a Smurf, and he was so proud of it. And the kids just, they were into it. But it was before the cartoon really even took off. And his German teacher came up to him and said, why would you have that? That's pretty crazy that you'd have that on your pencil. He's like, what are you talking about? It's a cartoon. And she goes to tell this what she interprets as the real story of the Smurfs. And what it was is it's supposedly a German story of when these little creatures, being the Smurfs, would lure children out into the deep snowdrifts, and they would make them fall through the snow, and the children would die from hypothermia in these snowbanks. And where do the Smurfs live? Under mushrooms. So when these children died in the winter, in the spring, the snow would melt and mushrooms would grow under their body. And then that child's soul would become a new Smurf. And that's why the Smurfs were blue, because they died of hypothermia. They wore a white hat to mimic the snowbanks that they died in. And Gargamel, the sorcerer, whatever, magician.
Bad guy.
Yeah.
Wizard.
He was actually a good guy by hunting these Smurfs so that children wouldn't die being lured in by the Smurfs. So that's what I know.
I don't accept it.
I don't either, but I did hear recently on a video that like the dark theory. It was like a video about dark theories about all our children's shows that we whatever, and they were talking about like the Smurfs being like Nazis and Gargamel is supposed to be Jewish and all that stuff, and it's very much like someone just made that up.
Yeah,
but you know how the internet is, so it's
probably,
like
probably. I mean, it probably has some like origins in some fairy tale.
Right. I was gonna say, like, I took German. I lived in Germany. That tracks with a lot of like the Brothers Grimm, like like Sleeping Beauty and stuff. Like the Disney version is all very happy, but like the actual like real stories that were written down are real dark and like do not end well.
Right. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I haven't done the research, but
I'm Googling right now.
Are you?
And maybe it's not as extreme as that, but maybe it's something.
But that right there, that's the key. It's like you told the story and you're like, but I haven't done the research. So I love that.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out it butters my biscuit that you don't just like, oh, this is real.
Well,
I heard it on
and that she said she heard it doesn't like that is a fact. She did hear that.
Right. Well, even just hearing something could be disturbing, you know? Like,
right. And actually, the story is actually I kind of like.
I know,
it gave me a little bit of shivers.
I
like,
know,
ooh.
like it kind of jives in some ways, but
because they're like happy and they make this world of their own. Something's kind of intriguing about that.
I'm gonna kill you.
I will say it tracks very much with like children's stories in Germany. Like,
they're scary.
I'm just inspired to make something cutesy with like a horrific backstory that nobody knows about.
Right? So that's my crumbled, dirty biscuit. No.
I hope we can say
I
that.
hug your biscuit.
Okay.
Oh, I think that's a salvaged biscuit where I'm from.
Okay.
I don't know that I have a biscuit.
That's okay.
I have 2 biscuits.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, you do.
And they each have
In your pants.
2 sides. A burned side and a buttered side.
Let's hear it.
So the first one is actually you, Mr. Putnam. Found out you were a knight.
Yeah.
And that buttered my biscuit. and I was so hopeful that, traditionally a knight can make a knight. I was looking forward to a knighthood in my future, possibly.
Yeah.
And then burned my biscuit when I found out you don't have the sword.
No, I never got the sword, and I'm no longer a knight, so I can't knight you.
So
I mean, he's starting kind of his own round table of sorts here. I mean, we could.
That's true.
My other biscuit is the sky.
Yeah.
The buttered side is we had the Northern Lights,
Which were really cool, but so late.
Yeah, and I kind of missed out on them, so that starts to get toward the burn side. But I'm an enthusiast for that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we forgot to open with any jokes. Anybody want to leave us with a closing joke? No? All right.
Got nothing.
All
We
right.
told jokes at some point, didn't we?
I could tell you guys the joke that I used to tell when I was a little kid.
Let's hear it.
Tell me.
Take us home.
What do you call a bull taking a nap?
I don't know. I do know, but I'm not going to spoil it.
It's a bulldozer.
I think I had that on a birthday card once. Seriously.
Excellent. I apparently really loved to tell that joke when I was like a toddler.
I'm just picturing
before
a
kindergarten.
cute bull just snoring.
Yeah.
Ferdinand.
Like the story of Ferdinand. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking love that story.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
He just wants to like smell his flowers and not fight.
Yeah.
Right.
It's chill bull.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks
Yeah,
everyone
it was a
for
great night.
joining. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Adios.
Thank you for listening to Wicker Biscuit, a Podcast Ahoy production. The producers of Wicker Biscuit are Ryan LeMay, Gary Putnam, and Courtney Holub. Executive producer is Gary Putnam. Recording and editing was done by Gary Putnam. Check out our social media for updates on upcoming pods and for clips and other media referenced in this episode. Because sharing is caring, the links can be found in the episode note. Check it out! Thanks again from everyone at the Wicker Biscuit family.